Yo, Monte, yo, Uber, did you guys see this?
Oh, man. I'm not sure we can talk about that. I mean, since we're on the C9 show, we really have to take stock of the situation.
Yeah, we might want to consider some other options.
Yeah, I think we can only do stuff that's been officially announced on the show.
Oh, wait, I know who Tian's new jungler is.
Oh, yeah, who?
Who the hell is Odd One?
Oh, my God.
9, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special off-season report edition of the Nines presented by AT&T. Today, we're going to talk about all the off-season wheeling and dealing that's happened so far in League of Legends free agency, but also in the Overwatch League off-season. It's been a minute, but I have returned. Monte, Loco, I'm sure you guys have been fine without me, right?
I mean,
Youth have been a lot better.
yeah, but you get abused a lot more, Loco.
Wait, there's no door in here. You're going to be nice.
No. But it will be maybe 60% less abuse.
Okay.
I think I'm only responsible for like 40, right?
Yeah.
You were pretty mean.
I don't know about everyone else, but I'm sure they all enjoyed watching you guys tell each other how smart you were. On today's show, we'll be talking to Mr. X in just a bit to get his take on all the movement in the Overwatch League scene. And later on, I'll pit these two guys against each other in Click Debate, where you and chat will have a chance to win some Puma swag.
Loco's still learning how to read a teleprompter. He's not used to doing this from the other shows.
Before we get into all that, you guys were both at the eSports Awards this weekend in Dallas. How was it?
It was really fun, actually. I think that it's really important to have an industry awards show. And while I wouldn't claim that it's perfect, I think every year it gets better. And honestly, it's one of the most fun events in esports to go to because of how many, old friends you get to see there, great conversations about the industry. It's basically better than any esports conference, so it's just fun to go. And it's really fun to be in the audience during the awards.
Yeah, I don't get all that hyped for the concept of networking in and of itself. Like I'm not really fussed about giving my business card out, but getting to meet a lot of people.
Explains your career, yeah.
Getting to meet a lot of people that I watched before I got into esports and finally was able to sort of stand next to, was really cool and get some great insights on that. So I actually got business cards done for it. I just didn't feel like giving them to anyone.
All right, let's start some controversy. Do you guys think it was odd that Golden Boy was the host of the event and also won eSport Host of the Year? Did he really deserve it?
Yes. I rigged. Definitely
100% deserved it.
Completely rigged. I mean, let's be honest here. He wouldn't have taken the show. He wouldn't have agreed to do it if they didn't give him the award as well. Golden Boy, he's a smart man. He knows where to go. He knows how to make sure he gets his due. But I mean, the guy is everywhere, man. It's so funny. His favorite joke to say is that the only reason I'm winning these awards is because other people haven't realized yet that I don't have talent and all I need to do is just do what I do. And I don't think that's true. I think
it's definitely not true. Yeah. He's a humble guy, but the problem that we're always going to have with that awards ceremony is that the awards ceremony is always going to be trying to get the best hosts in esports, and we have a host category, so most likely many of the people will end up being nominees, if not winning it out.
And depending on where it is, you're gonna want to know, especially if it's in London again, like last year, I'd want to know if I was going to be at least a finalist in an award before I went over. Like Henry G had come all the way from China for the event as well. That probably should have tipped us off to who would win this category, but that's fine.
I mean, I think Henry G is well deserving. Obviously, he's one of, if not the best color caster within the CSGO community. Been phenomenal for many years, started out as a pro. Really nice guy, too.
Great story about that, by the way. We were all sat, so myself, my partner were there with Scoots, Richard Lewis, Thor, and Matt was sitting at the same table. Henry, obviously, a friend of ours as well. He was the only one that was sat at a completely different table with Booga and his family, including both of his grandmothers. So Henry G would come back to the table periodically and be like, they're all drinking water over there, guys. And they asked me.
That is not who I would have that to.
Yeah, no, he was furious about it.
Enough chit chat. League of Legends, one eSport Game of the Year. Do you guys agree? What about you, Monte?
Yeah, actually I do agree. I think it's been a really good year for League of Legends overall. So there are several things. So first off, I'm on the panel, so I did in fact vote for League of Legends in first place. And there are a few things that really influenced my decision. One of which was the LEC rebrand, which I think was extremely successful, like really, really good. And I think the content, especially that was coming out of LEC, made up for a lot of the staleness that I thought we had in LCS. And also, I think Worlds was an amazing tournament this year, especially when we got to the World Finals. And I think that the spectacle of it, compared to like the really weird augmented reality dancing they had last year, which I really hated, I thought all the holograms and stuff this year was so cool. So I thought it was probably the best esports pre-show I've ever seen.
Yep. It's been a long time since I've been involved in League, and I still, had to look on and say they did a great job. Even the LCS guys, when I talked to, they said, man, LEC really killed it this year.
Yeah.
The shoulder content's been fantastic.
Yes.
The storytelling in the broadcast as well, the non sequitur stuff. So as far as putting on a product, like a holistically entertaining package, I have to say that League have done a great job.
So, speaking about League of Legends, G2, their League of Legends squad won Esport Team of the Year, and Team Liquid won Organization of the Year.
Yes.
Other than Cloud9, are they the best org?
So I also voted for Team Liquid for Organization of the Year. I think Team Liquid has been really successful across the board. If we look at their League of Legends runs, their TI runs,
Counter-Strike acquisition.
Hungry Boxes on your team. Obviously, this was their year in Counter-Strike. Even though they didn't win the last major, they still had a pretty dominant showing throughout the year as Astralis fell off at the beginning of the year. So I think overall, they were really deserving. I don't necessarily agree with G2 as Organization of the Year, so I would have...
They were the...
or Team of the Year, yes.
Team of the Year.
Yeah, you're right. So I would have put them as second place. So things I like about G2. Obviously, probably the most talented Western roster we've ever seen. It was difficult to assemble that. I think their social media content has been really good. Carlos has done an excellent job with that. I do place them behind the San Francisco Shock in the Overwatch League just because the way that the Shock constructed their roster, the coaching moves, the 12-player roster that they were switching, but they basically, in Overwatch, it's very hard to make a foolproof roster because of the meta switches, and most Overwatch League teams, even though you can only have 6 players at one time, have like 10 or more players. And so to build a team that was sort of meta-proof, that was in every stage finals, that won the grand finals, their coaching staff, and also it was like a multi-year building process to get there. I think they deserved it, but it was close.
Obviously we're looking at Team of the Year and not org, so we're not broadening our scope to look at social media so much and all that other stuff. Personally, I think Overwatch got pretty snubbed at the Esports Awards this year, sort of across multiple categories, whether it was casters, whether it was teams,
Players, Sinatras.
Yeah, look, I think there's a prevailing sentiment in the wider esports community that they sort of don't really care about Overwatch League. And that's fine, because eventually, if you work on the league or you're around it, you do need to look outside your bubble and see there's a whole bunch of other stuff going on there. But for someone who has tried to do that and sort of keeps abreast of a lot of the other stuff happens in esports, pretty clear to see that Overwatch people didn't really want to talk about it this year.
All right. Now, let's go to some other categories. Nate Shot of 100 Themes won Personality of the Year, and Dr. Disrespect won Streamer of the Year. Other than me, do you guys think these two deserve the awards?
For me, Nate Shot has done so much great content to build up 100 Thieves that I can totally see him getting that award. Dr. Disrespect, I honestly don't think there was, this is going to be weird to say, I don't think there was as much competition in the Streamer of the Year category, because last year Ninja won.
Well, XQC thinks differently. He thought that he should have had a decent crack at it.
Well, we'll just disagree there. In fact, I think it's not the number of hours that you stream, but actually the quality that matters.
I see, right.
So I think Doc, day in, day out, in terms of production quality, so if it wasn't going to be Doc, I actually have a different choice, which
Asmon Gold.
No.
Okay.
No.
Courage.
No.
Ninja.
No. Sushi Dragon, I think.
Oh, that's a good one.
Sushi Dragon, I think, who has the most technically advanced stream on Twitch and is making super unique content. He's like He's obviously not as big as these other names, but he's kind of poised to blow up right now because I've seen him start to get like 6 to 10K concurrents at times.
Wow.
And I think that he's on the up and up and is somebody that we have to watch in the future.
Yeah, I mean, he's a lot of fun. It's kind of psychedelic sometimes when you watch it. Like he mixes a bunch of effects and just technically very talented guy. I also hear that twitch.tv/Ubershouts guy is doing well and has a really fantastic jawline. If you're really into like nice aesthetics, golden ratio, got it all over there, you can check it out. Coming up though, we're going to talk to Mr. X in Cloud Connections about all the roster changes in the Overwatch League. There's actually been a ton, tough to keep track of them all. And later on, we're going to dig into all the League of Legends movement that happened yesterday. If you caught up with the Wolf Bombs, if you haven't, then this is where you want to be. But first, the holidays are right around the corner, so stock up on your festive gear at the Cloud9 Store with all the latest holiday swag. Check it out. That's it. Even your dog can now celebrate Christmas. So that sounds like something for our next guest. Joining us today in Cloud Connections, presented by AT&T, is my partner in crime, the Dre to my yay. That's right. It's in that order. The gold standard. Mr. X in the house. What's good, man?
I would say that actually Mr. X is the Dre because he's more OG than you are.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the one who's producing everything behind the scenes. You're the one who just tries to take all the credit.
And in Overwatch League, everybody forgot about him when you came along.
It's true. It's true. Hey, I only got to put one good album out every 10 years, right? I mean, that's what Dr. Dre's still living off one album.
So just put a gold sweater on every now and then.
He's living off of selling beats to Apple, actually.
Oh, yeah. Right. I'm okay with that.
That's go, mate.
You actually have to
get that bag, fam, you know what I'm saying? Overwatch League 2020 is on the horizon. We've seen a ton of changes this offseason. Cloud9's London Spitfires hit the reset button and will field a new look next year. Though nothing is official with their new lineup, we know that the Season 1 champion roster is long gone. Did you think, Matt, that the Spitfire needed a complete overhaul after their 2019 showing?
Yeah. I mean, they kind of looked lifeless at times, right, as a team. Like, they looked a little bit of like a shell of themselves. So I think you needed a full reset or a majority reset. And I think once you went to the lengths of getting rid of, like, gesture, when you're getting rid of profit, just get rid of everybody.
Yes.
I mean,
that is the argument.
Like, at that point.
That is the argument. But the problem is, for me, okay, let's evaluate where this team was. So they were pretty they win stage 1 last year, then they're pretty middling, and then they randomly win the finals. They have a lot of
I would say
national
randomly
talent.
is fair.
Yeah.
And so at that point, you at least need to see out another season, I think, because it's like, is this the new norm?
Yeah.
Has to be the question. Like, did they finally gel?
Did they figure it out?
Did they figure it out? The answer was no. But the question from there is, I agree that you need a majority reset. However, I personally would not have sold Prophet, the literal best Overwatch player.
Well,
and after you get rid of Prophet,
looking
you do have
back
to get
on
rid
it,
of
it's the
everybody
more
else.
confusing thing, not that they reset at the end of the year, but that they didn't try and make a big move in the middle of the year to get it back on track.
It's tough with roster windows as well, and like with the dust settling so much midway through, I feel like if you want to make big changes, it's hard. See, what I think is that I think a Spitfire wanted to keep Prophet. I think though that like if someone meets his buyout, I mean teams normally can have a chance to match these buyouts a lot of the time, but if the buyout's enough and London go, well, we might be able to build a new team off of one player's buyout almost. It might be worth
If you're
it.
Prophet, why are you going to stay?
No.
LeBron didn't stay in Cleveland. I mean, why are you staying in London? I mean,
Listen, for someone whose diet consists mostly of ice cubes, there are plenty of those in Seoul as well. So, I mean, he'll be able to sustain himself one way or another. Photosynthesis is a hell of an evolution there.
osmosis.
So the team that did benefit the most out of this was, of course, the Seoul Dynasty, because even though they lost Fleta, which was kind of weird, and we'll talk about that, they got Prophet and Gesture. So obviously, Seoul came into the start of the Overwatch League with the Lunatic High Core, one of the contenders, never even made a stage playoffs or the season playoffs in our first season. Now in our second season, they actually did better, but they still haven't ever reached the expectations that we've had.
And I don't know if they're going to get to those expectations in 2020. Like when I saw the Gesture and Prophet trade, I was like, man, I'm so excited to see Prophet and Fleta. It is going to be sick. And then they just ship Fleta off. They haven't made really any huge additions post that.
I mean, Prophet and Gesture are a pretty huge addition.
Right, yeah, but I don't think that's enough to push them over the top.
I also know that the way that like Prophet and Gesture were coached prior was definitely not in much of an under the thumb kind of way. The players were given a ton of agency as well, and they played with a bit more instinct, I suppose, than sort of rigorous drilling. For example, like if you oppose that to like crusty San Francisco Shock when he really took the reins. So I would like to see for the Seoul Dynasty, there's no excuse for them not to be one of the best teams in the world. Most of the Overwatch League players hail from South Korea. They should have the absolute pick of the crop, and this is the team that represents the capital of South Korea. I think I'd like to see a bit more of a strong structure like we saw with San Francisco, players that also buy into the vision and can actually execute on sort of what their coach and coaching staff want to see. But another team that benefited from London's roster moves, here's one. Philadelphia Fusion picked up Fury. Now, well, the acquisition of Fury and obviously the re-signing of Carpe and EQO, is this what the Fusion are looking for to get back in the final?
I think the Fusion have a really nice roster now. I think if they end up in a meta where you can play some Winston and some Diva, I think this team is going to be lights out. I really like the addition of Funny Astro as well. I think Funny Astro are really good.
I think it's
Alarm as well.
Alarm will agree on. Alarm is amazing. So, first off, would you really have said that Poco is the problem? Like, Fury's a better player. So here's what was inevitably going to happen. So Carpe and Fury are very good friends.
Say,
So they were inevitably going to end up on the same roster. Now, that roster wasn't London. Like, one of them was going to move, most likely, from behind-the-scenes info. So then what ended up happening was, with London dissolving their roster, Fury goes to Philadelphia. Now, my problem is that Sato... Why just get a backup main tank?
Yeah. Why are you picking
Seriously?
up someone like Ivy as another DPS player when you only have one main tank in Sato? Like, what are you doing with?
I mean, I think Ivy may start on this roster.
Yeah, but he always felt like an EQO style player to me, where like he had a fairly wide hero pool. But wide hero pools have never been useful in the Overwatch League because everyone plays the same damn thing. The only time was maybe stage 3 of this season where it was actually relevant.
Yeah, I really think that in terms of Philadelphia, what are they going to do with Poco now? Like, Poco's a starting caliber player, in my opinion.
Right.
But he's still going to be on the roster.
Boombox still there.
Yeah, I really think they just need a backup main tank. Like, that's what I was waiting for, because Sato has been so mediocre.
Yep. Main tanks are so hard to find that I think that when you look at it, and it's like, how many better options do they have than Sato at this point? How many better options do you really have?
I would have taken, you could have taken Genji or Element Mystics main tank and probably been able to make a decent run with it.
I don't know. I think at least you get a backup.
Yeah, you need you need another one on the roster.
The fact that they haven't signed another one is crazy.
Put some pressure on the guy. I love Philly. Probably one of my favorite teams in the league. But you guys probably need to tell us or show us why you have so much faith in Sato, because
He was good in their run to the finals.
Yes.
I mean, he can play Winston. He can play Arisa at a high level. It's just his Reinhardt.
So you're
that
saying we
leaves
need
a
to
little
ban
bit.
him for another few months and then get him to come back with that fire again and see if he can squirt out.
Nah, you just need a meta where it's not goats, where you have to group up, where they didn't really love playing goats, so you kind of didn't think the effort was all there. And then you need a meta where you can play Winston, you can play Arisa. I think when you get him in that more free flow of the game, he's pretty good.
I also think Philly are one of those teams that is very much at the whim of their coaching staff. Like, they stuck with goats way longer than they needed to. They drilled it harder than any other team because they were sort of slow to start on that.
the
meta.
Justice pickup Roar. Would you have liked Roar on Philly more than
No, I think
Sato?
Roar is
Roar is worse than
I think you're
Sato.
better off keeping Sato. Yeah, I think you're better off just
I think
keeping
Roar
Sato.
and Sato are both mediocre main tanks that have no distinguishing.
They are low.
characteristics.
They are low impact and relative.
But it's not like these are the only moves they could have made. For example, when we talk about the Dallas Fuel, they traded OG, who I think is mad overrated, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But a player that I don't think is super overrated is Gamsu. And they got Decay from the Gladiators as well.
And they got Doha as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doha and Decay is DPS. I don't know. It's nice.
I think Gamsu's an amazing acquisition. For
Yeah, well, look, I think when you look at Gamsu and Note, are they going to be the best tank duo in the league? Probably not. Are they going to be a tank duo that loses you games? You're never going to be you're never going to lose the tank battle in a big margin, or they're always going to be competitive with every duo in the league. So I think you gain that stability in terms of the tanks for the Dallas Fuel. I think, bringing in Decay, I think they're going to have to move around some of those damage dealers. I don't think they keep everybody. And then what goes on in terms of support? I think that's the next question.
I think it's curtains for their previous DPS players, though. I don't see Taimu or AKM getting a look on this roster.
It's
At all.
tough when you see the hero pools that Nado and Decay have.
Yep.
I think Zachary probably gets another go, which I think he had 1 year. I think he started to come on towards the end when you can actually play the damage dealers. I think you got to give him another year. I think who knows with AKM and Taimu though.
I think with Gamsu too, and for those people who are waiting for the league stuff, he is the same player who is in League of Legends. So he's top laner, famously for Dignitas and Fnatic, and a backup for Samsung back in 2014. So he's made a transition to Overwatch, and he's a very good tank player now. So I think what Gamsu brings and what this team really needs is in-game leadership.
Yep.
Because I think if you had to say Dallas Fuel's number one problem, it was in-game shot calling last season.
Yeah, this can happen actually when you look at that pool of players that they had in the original lineup, right? A lot of them were star talents from the old days in Europe, but not a lot were stand-up leaders. Mickey might have been the closest thing to that, and he didn't really have the staying power on that particular roster now. So having someone older being able to stand up and with other players that also respect his achievements might make a big difference. You can't just have a team of superstars that aren't leaders, and there aren't enough leaders in the Overwatch League in general, I can say that honestly. But the other Texas squad has been very busy in this offseason. The Outlaws released Bunny, but they gained NYXL's Meko, Gladiators DPS Hydration, and Coach Harsha. So, is there a world now where we can unironically sort of say that Houston can be a playoffs contender?
I'm worried saying around Monte.
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna put my hands over Monte's ear. I think they can make a run. I actually really like the addition.
Wait about
the
Monty's
Outlaws
happy about
made.
this because these guys got acquired by the guys that acquired it.
Dante, Hydration, Linkser, Laze. I don't know how you make, and Jake's still in the roster. I don't know how you make room for all five of those. Kind of the same issue that the Dallas.
Do you guys really think
have.
Jake plays again?
Yeah. Who knows?
I doubt it.
I think you bring in Harsha. Harsha knows what he's doing clearly. Worked with the Shock, worked with the Titans, respected throughout the league. I think Muma is a very good main tank. I think they've never had really anything close to Meko in terms of the off-tank position.
Yeah, that's when they're most.
They've always
stable
struggled.
position.
And the tracer position.
Look, I think that's a really good duo. I think you bring in. I believe they brought in. Did they bring in Repel? I believe they added a flex support. It was Aim God, right?
Aim God.
I believe they added Aim
Yes.
God. So yeah,
Yep.
so you bring in him as well. I think this is a team that has talent, especially when now they fall into the Atlantic, right? London's going down. You don't know what's going on with them. You can you can make some moves here.
I will say, I think a fair bit hinges on whether Blase can pan out to be the player that they hoped he would be. Like, he looked bad at the end of this season because he had to play Diva, because RCK on the Uprising was injured. So give him a shot. He's a nutty Doomfist, but we just have to see if he can consistently produce results now that he's got what I would say is a highly competent tank line.
I want to see Banny in the coaching role as well.
I think that'd be a great spot for Banny. I think what he's done with the Outlaws and then also Team Canada for the World Cup.
Yep.
I think his demeanor really
I think he'd be
speaks
a
to what
great coach.
a head coach would be. So I would agree. I think Banny deserves a shot in that role.
Yep.
All right, so let's talk about where we are right now, Los Angeles, because the Gladiators have been making some moves. They lost Surefour and Hydration and Decay, but they surprisingly gained space from their crosstown rivals, the Valiant, OG from Dallas, and Birdring from the London Fuel.
I like the moves that the Gladiators have made. I think the only
You like every move.
The only part I worry. No, there are some teams. I mean, we haven't talked about any of the teams I don't like, but I mean, I think the only thing I don't really like is that I don't know how much you can trust Birdring to be in every game.
Exactly.
I like the tank line. I mean, I think me and you could argue, but I think OG, I actually think he's quite a good player. I think when he has his mental in the right spot, I think he can produce at a high level. I think playing with somebody who's so positive and so good, like Space, can keep him there. I just don't.
I think the space move I like.
Okay,
the other
look,
two I'm
I
not.
just don't. I don't
absolutely.
really. The Birdring move until I see him play every game doesn't do anything.
Well, how are you supposed to counterbalance like OG and Birdring's tendency to I don't know how to put this, lack mental fortitude? Like I tell you, this is a challenge. The most important member on this roster
Deepay, right?
is going to be Deepay.
Yeah.
Is to actually or the guys. I think John Galt resigned. No, actually he went to Washington.
he went to Washington.
So is Deepay the type that's going to be able to get these guys? I almost wish that they still had Blake Panashevich on the team, who was like a psychologist who could actually come in and work with these guys. I don't think they're problem individuals, but they are both prone to the same issues that have held them back on their teams. Space is chill, but is Space also angling to try and be a leader?
I'd really have loved this roster if they kept Surefour.
Yep.
I mean, if this roster, if they have Surefour and then add another damage dealer, right, that you think can play every game.
And don't take Birdring, do you think? Or
I mean, I think you sign Birdring. I mean, if you can sign Birdring, right?
Birdring
is his last chance to
Birdring has a very high upside. It's just he's incredibly.
The thing with Birdring, like some players you wouldn't take a chance on. We've seen Birdring be like one of the top damage dealers in the world not too long ago. like
It's an insane mechanic.
yeah, like insane mechanics.
But do you guys feel like he's been coasting a little bit on his waning reputation from the days of the past?
That's why I wouldn't sign.
How long does that last, do you think?
It should be over.
That's what I thought. This is definitely his last chance. So the other Los Angeles team, I don't really know what's going on. So obviously, Space has left his team. Agilities and Kareev are released. They go to Toronto. They've signed players like Apply, who look I hear very good things about. Dream and Lastro. So you want to explain some of this to me, Matt, because this is definitely the most confusing.
Look, with all these teams gearing up, making, you don't want to call them super teams because I don't think we have like a super team, but with all these other teams gearing up, who's left? And if you can't create a championship contender, you may as well try and build for the future. Like this league's going to go on for a while. You look at it and you're like, hey, can we win today? Like if we bring everybody back, probably not. Can we start to build towards something where, like, hey, in 2 years, like, we have a lot of good young players. We can bring in 1 or 2 veterans at that time and make a run at that point.
So
let's
is
try and
the
build for the
2020
future.
Valiant the 2018 San Francisco Shock then?
I mean, that's what they're going to try and do. but
No, is
I mean,
the
that's what they would try and do. But the only difference is you had a player.
Let me
you had
rephrase
a
that
player-
question.
Yeah.
Hey,
Is the
put some respect in my boy Nobi's name, right?
Nah, but you had a player on the Shock on the bench with Sinatra who you knew was going to
yes, but
be
they
a
paid
star
money
player
for him.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you don't have anybody on this roster that you look and say, hey, in 2 years that guy's going to be an
So
MVP.
yeah, this is the problem. Is that with that comparison is that they signed Sinatra and Super to good deals before they were eligible to play, knowing that they would be good.
Yes.
This is more of a Boston Uprising approach.
Yeah, this is more Boston than that.
Yeah, of let's try and find some diamonds in the rough.
Hey, listen, keeping 2 teams afloat, I guess gets pretty expensive
If you-
sometimes. So fair enough.
If you can find some diamonds in the rough, though, I mean, you can.
Sell them.
Well, yeah, I mean that. I mean, you can keep them, try and build for the long term, but I mean, you have some options.
So
there.
when are Boston supposed to be good then?
I mean, look, I think Boston. Look, they got rid of Note, right? Kellex is gone. Striker's gone.
Gamsu.
Gamsu.
Krusty.
I mean, the only player the player I was most surprised to see them let go was probably Note. I thought you would have kept him. He just seems like a great teammate. Seems like a great person to just kind of build around. But
There has to be a reason they wanted RCK in that lineup.
All right, let's talk about Toronto because they have some nice pickups. Speaking of Kellex from the Boston Uprising, they've got Kareev that they picked up from Valiant, Nevix, of course, coming in from the bench of the San Francisco Shock. And I think the big moves were native Canadians, Surefour and Agilities. They're clearly trying to build up a local fan base from their Canadian star players.
I like it from the sense that they've given people in Toronto a reason to root for Toronto.
Well, I think that was their problem last season. Last season, I think, it was tough for people to make. I'm 37 was the most notable player for most of the season until they brought in a couple.
And not for being good at video games.
Right. You just literally, your most famous player was famous because he stole the mic off the interviewer, and that was your brand as a team, Toronto. So they've obviously now
It worked for a bit.
It worked for 3 weeks. 3.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and then the fall off was quick. They let him go as well. Let's not forget. Obviously, Roki did lead this team as well, where they weren't really. Was it 8 or Roki that they let go? I think it was
8.
It was 8. Sorry, excuse me. So, I mean, look, they're great players as well. I think you hit the sweet spot here, right? Players that represent your region. And players that are exceptionally good.
They'll be one of the more popular teams in the overall league.
I think so too.
I think without question. I actually think they can be competitive if beasts in the main tank role can play at the Overwatch League level consistently.
And main tank was their biggest position
So-
of issue.
But I think, look, you have Surefour, Canadian, good leader, solid rock player, Agilities, we've seen him pop off at times. Kareev had a great into last year. It's going to be a much improved Toronto roster. Is it a roster you think makes the playoffs? I think that relies on the tank line for me.
Atlantic.
Yeah, true. I mean, you never know.
I don't know. I'm a bit of an EU fanboy, I guess, but I still think Sharik could have had some upside for that team going forward. Like, he was still pretty young. Like, I don't know if we really need to replace him with Beast, but that's by the by. The Paris Eternal, they've let go of veterans like Shadowburn, and they've signed a few players from Overwatch contenders, Element Mystic. Now, Matt, do you think Sparkle is like Rookie of the Year material?
Yeah. I mean, it's just whether this team can put it together. I believe I saw that the Paris Eternal are in Korea now, boot camping for next year.
Yeah.
So already trying to get everybody on the same page, get moving in the right direction. I've liked what they've done in terms of the coaching staff, the additions there.
Yeah, Element Mystic's head coach, which is the reason why we see Sparkle heading to this roster. Obviously, Sparkle and they wanted to stay together. So Paris kind of won the lottery. For those of you who don't know, Sparkle signing is probably the most important signing of a new player this offseason. There were a lot of teams who wanted Sparkle on the roster. He's not even going to be eligible for the start of the season. He will turn 18.
I also think it's kind of cool if you are Sparkle, right? I mean, Paris and just France in general has a huge esports scene. Like, if you can make that team good, you'll see crazy turnout in Paris when you go to those games.
Yes.
And I think they'll show out in a big way.
Obviously they realize they're going to do really well with European players because there are not many European teams that sort of have these individuals. But at the end of the day, you have to win games. Like the Paris Eternals debut, they beat London in the first week of last season, and people were really bullish on them. But this European dream, of having a roster that represented the region, also performed, just wasn't there. I wouldn't mind seeing them pick up player like Alpha as well, also from Element Mystic. I thought we're talking about other good main tanks in the contenders region. It could be an age thing as well for Alpha. I'm not sure how old he is, but I think this is a good start for them. They need to. I could not be any more lukewarm on any team but Paris.
I think when you talk about main tanks and going from contenders to Overwatch League, you see a lot of the main tanks that get signed are just being rotated around the league because teams are really wary about the level of main tank play and tank play in contenders in general and how that elevates into the Overwatch League. So that's why I think you're seeing a lot of teams just kind of cycle around main tanks.
I mean, you heard what Trill said when he moved out to the Dallas Fuels main roster. He'd been playing on Envy for a while. He was like, this is a completely different ball game.
So let's talk about DPS next. And we got to talk about Fleta, because that's potentially a pretty big move to the Shanghai Dragons. And they lost Gamsu, but he's joining a DPS core on Shanghai that contains Ding and DM, who might already be the best DPS duo in the league.
But we did see them get exposed a little bit towards the end of the year, not having the hero pool necessary to get it done. Who has an extremely large hero pool? Fleta. So now you can do something where you play Fleta maybe all of the time, you rotate Ding and DM in and out, Because you like those guys individually, right? When you can get Ding on his best heroes and you can get Diem on his best heroes, those guys just rock. But it's when they're forced off of like their comfort picks, that's when you see them start to struggle a bit.
Right, interesting though, Fleta, the heroes that he is sort of best known for though, I'd still like this, like Ding, Pharah, Diem, Widowmaker, those two heroes that we often see Fleta on as well. And I'm really interested to see how he fits in this team, if he's trying to be that stable aspect and let the other two sort of bounce off and come in and try and, you know, I mean, that puts a lot of expectation on Fleta, but he has always struck me as a more supportive DPS player. Like, you know, I compare him to Shawfor in the regards that he prefers to be a facilitator in a lot of these cases. Even when he's given a playmaking hero like Widowmaker, you often see him be very passive, peak second, play safe kind of style, which we also see from Birdring in the past when Birdring sort of moved towards a more passive play style. So I'd like to see how they integrate him, but we'll move along because we need to talk about this one quickly. Overall, going into Season 3, who is your team to beat? Is it still the Shock and the Titans?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it's quick. Yeah, I mean, the Shock. I mean, as long as they got the same roster, I don't see anybody.
Coach.
And the
Most
same
importantly,
coach.
the coach.
Who won't let them slack in the offseason? No way. I mean, they're at a boot camp right now.
Yeah, I mean, who's close? I mean, I don't even think Vancouver. I mean, they've made some changes in the offseason, right? We don't know how those are going to pan out. I think the conversation is just more of who's second.
Yeah.
Like, I think it's kind of crazier to think like who's second. For me, the teams that kind of stand out for like your top second spot, like outside of the Titans, you still look at New York. New York's always going to have a strong roster. Gladiators, and then I think if you were to tell me I had to pick one today, I would probably say the Hangzhou Spark.
Okay, who haven't changed anything, by the way. They're also
and look, I mean, you get Gushui on Winston, right? If you get like a Winston meta.
Yep.
I like the Hangzhou Spark a lot. So I think for me, looking at the rosters right now, I like the Shock and I like Hangzhou.
Well, there you go. This is a nice little wrap, I guess, of the off-season. A lot to talk about here today, but Matt, before we let you go, what are you up to in the off-season and where can we follow you?
I'm streaming a ton. I'm walking my dog a ton. You can follow me on Instagram.
Are you streaming walking your dog?
No. That's probably something I should do. No, you can follow me on Twitter, Matt Mr. X. Find out all the things I'm doing, all my other socials, streaming a ton, playing some games at you. Yep. Gonna start playing some games at you, have some fun. Yeah, we're just gonna play some games and mold a whole bunch. Thanks a bunch for stopping by and chatting with us, Matt.
Bye. Goodbye.
That's actually him that's going, yeah.
Knock up onto Hooney. He's going to put this thing forward. There's the ult. They found the suppression. There's a lot of space built by Smoothie, and it's a 1-for-1 so far. 2. It's going to be a trade. Now it's a 3 versus 2 on the fight. Monte cutting away. Broken Blade gets the healing. The re-engage. Sven pops off for the Quadra. Will it be all 5? Is Monte running? And a pentakill. Redemption for Sven.
Dardoch finds the stun, looks at Bjergsen, but Bjergsen actually buffing the stun through and was able to get everybody else. Sven takes down Hooney in an instant, and now Dardoch's going to be left for dead. Smoothie hops over, there's the Vanguard tech. TSM rushing in there, Sven with a double, Sven with a triple kill, Sven with a quadra kill. TSM in game number 1 will get their kites up, the pentakill. That's it.
For Licorice, Galio re-engages and TSM running away, but Bjergsen's going to fall. Lauder picks up 1, but Swain is in the mix. Sven's going in, he's found 1, he's going to look for more. 50 pops a stopwatch, he's going to be re-hit. Sneaky grabs himself the kill. Then it's going to be another kill, another 2, as Swain has found his second. The Blabber's going to fall for number 3. Sven's wiping the floor with this one. He's found the 4th, and he's looking for number 5.
After using the Abyssal Voyage, Elder Dragon still the target. Syntax is going to get dropped. Sven gets a kill credit, copies the target as the Chrono Break buys more time. Sven flashes forward, the shutdown kill. Spice are routed, they are killed, they are aced, and G2 are looking for the base.
Sven with a quadra grill, straight out of the Matrix.
JJ finding a bit of a counterattack here onto Vulcan, but Core's taken very low. Jensen's nearly going to be taken down. Flash over the wall. The stun itself denies his escape, and Vulcan breaks down the hammer.
Hey guys, I'm Philip Laflamme, or Vulcan, and I will be the new support for Cloud9.
Oh, they're going for it.
Here we go.
Speaking of, Huni, Firefrost in there, looking for the ulti, doesn't quite get it. Oh, goodness, into the backline. Goes the rest of them. Clutch, Huni's still alive, Wiggly.
Oh,
getting it done. And Vulcan gets the kill of all people.
My goals for next year are that I want to win LCS. I think it's very reachable for us, and it would be a disappointment for both me and the team if we weren't able to do it. So,
Vulcan looking for it. Huni, of course, looking for it. As he dives on him, we've got another engage coming forward. That's a really great quickness to lock them all up. And King the first to die. That should mean the end of Mammoth. Clutch now looking for another catch here. Monte on the top lane tower, almost taking that down. Vulcan flashes in, lands the hook, and goodbye, Ananasik. There goes by.
Things for him to manage. As over the wall goes Vulcan with the flash. Smithy going to be caught out here. And that is one dead Scorpion. Lyra makes sure it happens. That's kill number 4 for Clutch.
Big play there from Vulcan.
to the Cloud9 fans, I know that you guys have usually very high expectation for your players, and I am very confident that I can live up to that. So I'm looking forward to have you guys cheer for both the team and I next year. Thank you.
So there you go. That was a look at Cloud9's new bottom lane. So we're going to start the League of Legends free agency discussion now with Loco with the home team C9. Today it was confirmed that C9 will acquire TSM's AD carry Sven, and they announced they purchased Vulcan, Clutch's support player. So guys, how do you think that these two are going to perform together in this new look bottom lane?
Before we talk about them together, let's talk about them separately and how they got there and kind of the context for the situation. Sven is someone that has incredibly decorated history of being successful. He's won 3 LEC champions. He's been to semis at Worlds. But there is a little bit of a caveat. He's always played with incredibly strong solo laners. Expect Soaz when he's on Fnatic, Perks Expect when he was on G2, and on TSM he had Bjerg and Broken Blade, but he didn't really perform well there. And the other caveat was he performs well with Mithy. Now
Yes, I was gonna say, like, part of why they were even brought over in the first place was because they were a strong duo, and Sven was a very mechanically skilled player who is complemented by a very good in-game shot caller in Mithy, right? So it was that synergy, and they didn't perform well on TSM together. He then didn't perform great on TSM separately, so...
But there is a caveat. He's someone that's very headstrong and someone that has a little bit of an ego, right? When the whole meme of Rogue is better than TSM came up, he made the infamous comment, like, look at the players on Rogue. I could 1v5 this. And things didn't end up that well for Sven. He's quoted to coming to NA because he wanted to win. He wanted to be the first player to win both in Europe and North America. He hasn't accomplished that. I think the weight of being on TSM and the weight of pressure he put himself in terms of like being accomplished in NA has really stifled his play. On Cloud9, they're an incredibly good team about getting the best out of their players. So I think Sven will do much better. I think his mindset will be better. I think the environment of Cloud9 will be so good for him.
I do think it's going to be a bit of a learning curve for Vulcan, though, because Vulcan is a very young player that's coming in spite of Clutch's success. He really wasn't, I don't think, one of the central reasons for that. But what I will say about C9 is that C9 has been very good at developing support players in general. So I can see Reaper and the coaching staff helping him out in order to become the support player they need. I do always get concerned in these kind of situations, though, that the support player will get intimidated by Sven's sort of legacy and like reputation within the scene, and then maybe not perform at their best or not take the reins when necessary.
So Vulcan actually played with Piglet, someone that's infamous for being headstrong and having a legacy. I mean, Piglet has a better trophy case than Sven. Like, Piglet has that World Championship trophy. That's something Sven cannot say. So I think Vulcan will be fine in terms of playing with another big-headed AD carry, if you want to call it that. And the other thing is, the one thing most North American supports struggle at is being engaged supports. Vulcan played as a primary engaged support on Clutch, even when he was on stuff like Braum, because Lyra, his best champions were stuff like Lee, stuff like Skarner, where he wasn't the primary engaged, and Vulcan mostly played Leona, Alistar, Nautilus, Rakan, so I think he's going to fit right in, and I'm really confident about Vulcan. And even though I can't be directly confident about Sven, Cloud9's history shows that they are so good about taking someone that might be a little bit damaged goods and turning it into a real treasure.
It's also not like C9 plays around the bottom lane anyway, so as long as Sven just kind of does his job, farms up in lane, which is like their identity has been that for many years now. So we'll see how much control they're willing to take, if they're going to be willing to shift their focus down to that bottom line.
So do you think they're going to sort of try and mold Vulcan into a less of an engaged, focused player for that reason then, if the bot lane's taken less priority? They're trying to play safer here? Or?
I mean, they might just change their priority too. I think it's a really interesting thing that they're going to be doing because they've played in a very similar style for a long time now, but that doesn't mean it's going to be consistent, right?
Okay, so let's get to this most recent breaking news. C9 alum Medius is going to the 100 Thieves. Obviously, Papa Smithy behind this. What is he getting up to?
I mean, I know, but I can't tell you.
So, from someone that doesn't know, Medius is someone that actually brings his own structure and very strong ideas about how he wants to play the game. When everyone's in line with how Medius wants to play, then you will get the best out of Medius. But when there is differing opinion, that's where it can kind of hurt. And I think 100 Thieves starting over, they worked with Medius before, and they know how much of a system that he can actually bring over. And I think they're going to surround him with players that he works well with. There's no other reason to bring over Medius if you're not going to allow him to be Medius and play his own
So he
style.
has to be the leader, is that what you're saying, in this team?
Not necessarily, but his voice is going to be huge within the team, and they have to allow it to flourish instead of stifling it.
I'm curious where 100 Thieves is going to go with the rest of this roster, because now I think Medius is obviously one of the strongest NA junglers, so you sort of filled that. It's always, the dance around creating LCS rosters is always about which NA players you have, because you're trying to maximize the value
have your
of your
residents,
NAs,
right?
NA players. So there's only like a few generally NA players that all the teams are trying to go for. Medius is definitely going to be one of those players. He's obviously not going to be at the level of Svenskeren, who's an NA resident right now, but Medius is still good enough, I think, to get the job done. Is still a strong jungler. So now the question is, because ostensibly they still have Someday and Bang, are these going to be their imports? That would mean they'd have to get an NA mid, which is obviously like a trouble point for a lot of teams. So do they use an import mid and then get rid of Someday or Bang? Like, there's a lot still to be figured out with this roster. But Someday and Bang are both potentially very good.
So I'll drop in a little bit of rumors here. Medius has been doing a lot with this mid laner called Ryoma from Oceanic region.
I know him quite well, yeah.
Why don't you speak a little bit on him? I actually have no idea who he is.
Well, I know. I operated it as a manager, not a coach in League of Legends back in Oceania. So, but he's been around for quite a few years now. I think he played under Legacy Esports, which is one of the teams that I work with as well. I think also under Chiefs. So, I mean, he's not the only talent coming out of that region as well. Like Destiny's also been picked up from Oceania.
FBI is also on.
Yeah, exactly right. Even Keen, way back in the day, if you remember Keen, he was also from the Oceanic region. So that's my insight for you. How about that? Yeah, big brain League of Legends player.
So what's his reputation in Oceania then, even though it's a few years back? Because what I've heard about him is that he's considered one of like the most, like the brightest potential up-and-coming stars coming out of
yeah,
Australia.
and I think that's something that Spawn could sort of corroborate as well, having spoken to him. Like Ryoma was always like the highly contested player in that Oceanic region. So
It's also hard to tell if that's going to, based on the duo wing, because we also have to remember that the import rule was just changed. So they could be, something 100 Thieves could be doing is testing him for the Academy roster, because now he will not take an import slot on the Academy roster. So there's lots of possibilities that could be happening there.
So 100 Thieves also has a lot of good developing NA players. We talked about them having Bang and Someday, but behind Bang and Someday, they have Prismal and FakeGot.
Right.
FakeGot played for 100 Thieves last year. Even though he wasn't a standout, he still was pretty decent for a rookie, so they could reinvest back into him and go Ryoma Bang, or they could go Ryoma Someday and put Prismal, their Academy AD carry, up to the LCS team. They have a lot of different directions.
Yeah, they have flexibility, which is nice. But again, it's playing that dance around imports that's super difficult.
I mean, we're giving Nate Shot enough free press timing anyway. Today, though, Team Liquid, arguably the best team in North America, confirmed the acquisition of Broxah from Fnatic. So this moves to place Smithy, who will now be playing for the Immortals. So what do you guys make of this change at the jungle role?
Okay, no disrespect to Broxah. I think he is an amazing player, but there are flaws with how he plays. I actually think it's going to be really negative in terms of him meshing well with Team Liquid. Broxah is someone, if you lay out the game plan really simple for him, he's going to be excellent.
He's very good mechanically.
Yeah.
Very good mechanically.
During the meta where it was Xin Zhao Camille 2018 World Finals, and all he had to do was really play for the level 2 power spike and then gank and fight and play around caps, he was an excellent jungler, one of the best in the world actually. And then in 2019, he struggled with the new system until they got it together with we're going to play around Nemesis, with Hilly and Broxa doing this like kind of 3-man roam squad, gank squad. Then they got their things together again. There's times where his team will give him a really good lead with a very special level 1, and he'll kind of flounder when he has to come up with creative solutions on the fly. And with Team Liquid, I think that's something that Xfinity did really well. There's a lot of balancing act in terms of playing around Jensen and double.
You're trading sort of pathing and shot calling, or pathing and, like you said, creative play style, with a more significantly better player mechanically. So I guess what I would say is that Team Liquid, because again, they have slots for imports because they keep getting, they keep having the advantage of like Jensen's now an import, Impact's now an import, so they can have Core JJ as an import and Brox as an import and Doublelift as the only
Because they're now residents.
North American. They're residents. Yeah. So they're residents now, so they can actually field 4 foreign players at the time, right now, and they're using that flexibility, and they have intentionally bought that flexibility over a number of years. This is definitely where Team Liquid has been. Their strategy has been this way for like 2 years now. It's been very clear that this was their progression.
So how do they make up then for like a lack of potential like shot calling in their jungle?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is they must have a level of faith that they can coach Broxa in a way that Young Buck couldn't on Fnatic, which I think is very arrogant because I think Young Buck's a very good coach. So I kind of question that about them. Or they may have thought that we don't need necessarily the best decision-making jungler. What we need is a guy, given the fact that we have some very good mechanical players in mid and bot, who's just going to make the play to feed our lanes. Right? There must be some level of thinking about this. Also, Xmithy was a free agent, so we don't even know if they wanted to keep him and were unable to do so.
Right. Doublelift mentioned on Hotline League that the players overall
Monte loves that show.
wanted to. You should be on it sometime.
I tried. It didn't work out anyway.
Shout out Travis Scafford.
Doublelift mentioned that the players wanted to keep Xmithy. So I guess the implication was maybe the management didn't, or the staff thought we need an upgrade.
Interesting that they would contravene players' wishes like that when it sounds fairly unanimous, right?
Okay, but like I guess we know what after Liquid doesn't get out of groups this last year again. I guess the argument is sort of, what the upside of this roster is. Are you really going to double down on it for another year? I think this is a minor change where if they can coach Broxa to be better in terms of his strategy, then maybe you do that, right? I'm usually not a fan of not changing rosters, even if you're winning. Because generally, I think, especially in League of Legends, the most successful teams have been very aggressive about how they cycle players because it creates a honeymoon phase where people are going to be trying harder. You're less frustrated necessarily with the people who are around you. The game changes a lot year to year. Riot has been intentionally balancing over the last number of years to prioritize early game skirmishing, which Broxa is just objectively better at than Xmithy. So if their opinion is that it's going to keep going in that direction, then maybe this is what they need.
So less of a macro-focused approach.
You can always sign a backup jungler later, right? So whatever.
I just don't think that has been TL's identity. We're going to be strong early game, we're going to skirmish. And that's not the players they have, and that's not the shot calling system they have either. And I think they're going to have to refigure out a lot of stuff.
But I think that's why they're doing this, because they want to be more that way. That's the only logical reason, right?
Is that really Doublelift and Core JJ's strength? I think they're incredibly good at team fighting and incredibly good at control situations. I think they're moving away from what makes them so dominant and so good as a team.
I think that in the way that the meta has gone, that isn't a good strategy to double down on, and you might as well try and split the difference or encourage players who haven't played that way previously to try and learn something new.
For people that are saying this is a straight upgrade, really think back to the time where TSM let go of Doublelift and Biofrost and Svenskeren, and they got the best in the West, the objective upgrade, and really destroyed what made them strong in the first place. I'm not saying it's going to happen to Team Liquid. They could still be very dominant in North America, but they're going to have to re-figure out how this team works, and it's no guarantee that they will be just as dominant.
Right, on that note, we've got a ton more to talk about, guys. We spent plenty on that topic. This news was broken last week, but we have to take a moment to discuss it because of all the zeros involved in this story. Hooney, top laner for Dignitas, re-signed with his team for 2 years and over $2 million. Good money, bad money, and we in between?
Horrific money.
Okay.
Horrific money. So I love Hooney, and no one should blame him for taking the check, right?
Get that bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Blame Dignitas.
Great for Hooney. What is concerning is that we know exactly what Huni is. We've seen him on North American teams. We've seen him with Faker on SK Telecom. We've seen him on European teams with Fnatic. And now we're seeing him here again. Yes, he has
What
a
is
huge-
Huni?
Yes.
I mean, we know who Huni is. What is Huni?
Huni is a very strange player who wants to play carries in the top lane. He's a limited player. He's a huge gambler and risk taker. And we know at an international level, he is not that caliber. Like he's a very known quantity. He's been playing some of the same champions like Lucian top lane for years. We even saw that at the last World Championship when he was on Clutch. So I don't really understand like why you would spend that much money except to get fans. And I think this plays back into people's complaint about teams in the LCS, which is that they make these boneheaded moves instead of trying to develop talent. You are paying $2.3 million of guaranteed money to who I think is one of the most known quantities in top lane in League of Legends.
I guess Dignitas feels like they don't have a brand without Huni, so that's why they're spending this kind of
All right,
money.
so let me ask you a question then, just about Dignitas. If they don't have a brand, then why did they buy the Dignitas brand?
That's not a question for me. That's the question for the people that spending that money.
Thinking
of the
emoji,
LCS, I think.
like thinking emoji. Like, why would you pay all that money to buy out the? So let's think about the strategy that.
Also, isn't
Dignitas-
that kind of player a destabilizing element in your team anyway?
So let's think about the legit strategy that Dignitas has had over the years. So when you buy Dignitas, what are you actually buying?
The brand.
You're buying Odie.
The
you're
rain
buying,
recognition.
You're buying Odie. You're buying Odie.
The stupid-looking alien.
Yes,
It's
which
an
was
owl
terrible.
now, right?
Yeah, it's an owl now.
Yeah.
So you're buying Odie.
Okay.
Right? Who is the guy who is the OG esports guy, who
Yep.
by the way is now with Rogue.
Yep.
So he's gone.
So you didn't buy Odie,
So you didn't
really?
you didn't buy anything. You got rid of the logo, but so Dignitas is a Roman concept of honor. But you put an owl in, which is not a Roman symbol.
Wisdom.
It's the symbol of Athena from Greece.
Yep.
And then on top of that, what don't you change? The name. Google the name. The number one result on Google is an assisted suicide clinic in Switzerland. I'm not screwing with you. Just Google it. That's what you bought. And then you're going to say, "Oh, Huni will save our brand." These people have no idea what they're doing.
It's clear from what they're doing, no?
Yeah, it's a.
like just think about that. Just
It's an odd precedent you're trying to set.
think about it.
I think Huni's playstyle gets encouraged by being offered these kind of checks as well. Like, at what point does this guy turn around and start going, maybe I should be less of a selfish player, more of an enabler on my
The
team?
thing is, there's times where Huni has been that player. There's times where he's been a little bit more contained on Fnatic, on SKT, because he had strong head figures, like that kind of push him to be that way. Daler and Yellowstar on Fnatic and Goma on SKT, they controlled him, and that's when he's had the best results. And when he's been given more of a free reign on Echo Fox, on Immortals, and now on Dignitas, the results have been a mixed bag. And this gives so much power and control to Huni. 2.3 million guaranteed. You can't even move him. If you move him, now you're down
You pay it out.
2.3 mil.
It's just mental.
Yeah.
Guys, you can't sit outwardly. Monte is actually bristling right now, so we'll move it along. So big
I just hate Dignitas. Like it pains me. It pains me to see what they've become. God bless you, Odie. I'm so sorry.
It's an owl. They got an
sorry.
owl logo, guys. It's cool. Some big changes for TSM though. First, they traded Smoothie to CLG, and in return got Biofrost. So okay, who wins the trade there?
So for me, this one's really strange because from the information we have, it's just an even trade. You get Smoothie, I get Biofrost.
Right.
There isn't money involved from the information we have. TSM has worked with both Smoothie and Biofrost, so they have the more complete picture, so I feel like they can make the better decision. CLG, Biofrost has been their most front-facing player. He's all over their social media, their YouTube, any kind of content they do, Biofrost is in it, and he's also the captain, and he's also a hugely vocal member. Why is CLG so willing to trade away the face of their team, someone they doubled down on, for Smoothie? And they don't even know who Smoothie is as a player completely because they have never worked with Smoothie. If the team that's worked with both players is willing to trade, I'd be second-guessing the trade.
Well, to be fair, it is in keeping with CLG's pattern of trading away the face of the team, right? That's literally all they do, right?
Okay, do you think Biofrost requested this by any chance? Do you think there's any chance he wanted to go back and actually requested to be traded?
If I had to make a guess, then yes. I do think Biofrost wants to leave CLG, then CLG has all the power. They can stop that. Like, they can do what they want.
Well, I mean, yes, they had to, but at the same time, if you have a disgruntled player on your team, your question is, do you keep them around?
destabilize
And like, if I'm Biofrost, would I rather play with Kobe, who's coming in on TSM, or would I rather play for Stixxay?
Well, it's funny. Let's talk about that. So they pick up Kobe from Splice to play with Bifrost in the bottom lane. Like, do you think they make a good duo?
Ooh, this one's a really weird one because Kabe is not really known for his laning. He didn't have the best support in North Karen. North Karen inted him a few times.
Oh, I think North Karen is horrible. Okay. So I think North Karen has a very limited champion pool. I think he was one of the biggest problems for Splice at Worlds. And weirdly, I think once we got the complete picture of Splice,
look at that hook, bro. Look at that.
When we saw their quarterfinal against SKT, I think that Kabe looked like the best overall player on the team at Worlds.
Yes.
Because I would have said groups nemesis, but then I would have said overall, after we saw quarters, I would have said Kabe.
So once we see what he looks like without North Karen, we can really judge him on his laning. There's still questions around that. But Kabe and Bio together, it's going to be interesting. And I think how the rest of the map fills out for TSM is really going to define their role. If they are going to be like a bot lane oriented team and they're going to play around Kabe and Bio, I'm not quite sure that's the best case scenario for them. I would much like to see them be more of a solo lane oriented team and not focus too much on the laning from Bob's side. Because Kabe will be a monster in team fights and so will Bjergsen. And that core, if you can bring them into the mid game, you'll be like a better version of Splice.
So what's interesting to me about TSM in general is that, yes, they have Kabe, but with Bjergsen being a resident player, the question is where are they going with their other import slot, if anywhere, right?
So it's been really quiet regarding the top.
Because they got jungle and top, right?
Yeah. But then we have to ask the question, right? If they're going to get an import jungle, who will it be? Like some of the names that come up or people like
Clid.
Peanut. That's not happening. Clid to TSM is not happening. With the amount of money LPL has, it's Clid back to SKT or to an LPL team. Clid to TSM, no. And then even if you are talking import junglers, then you need a native top lane. And there aren't that many good native top lanes that are available right now who like solo. So most likely, I think TSM will stay with Broken Blade. And then the two junglers it comes down to is Amazing and Dardoch. Who do you like better?
Oh my God.
NA, baby. Soak it up, Monte. That's right. Let's move across the pond. Let's get Monte out of North. Let's save him from this anguish. So, big news broke today in a region that isn't North America. After a leave of absence, you'll like this one, for required military service, Forgiven, formerly of H2K, brilliant hairline on the man, just signed with Schalke. Forgiven is back. Hello, how do you think he'll do? Now we know this guy, not always the easiest to get along with, but fantastic player. How's he going to go?
I love Forgiven. I really like his attitude, and I understand that he's an asshole, but that's just what you get when you get Forgiven. And I think that Forgiven is difficult because he expects such a level of excellence from himself and practice and dedication to a training regimen. And it's not just about him, he demands that from everyone around him. And I think what's interesting is that he's coming back from his hiatus where he went to the Greek military. And I imagine that being in the military did not decrease his level of discipline, if you get what I mean. Yeah. He does very well in highly structured teams. So I think if Schalke is going to just enforce, I think he's a player that needs to be in a highly ordered environment. But if he gets that, he's going to be successful. And there's no question that he has long been one of the best mechanical players.
Can you imagine if he got swole as well? Goes in there, just gets completely jacked, and then doesn't fit through the door in the LEC arena. Let's get some mad respect on him then.
I think he's also just one of the best personalities on the scene. I mean...
But I know the kind of personality you're drawn to, Monte, though. You're
Monte loves assholes.
Surrounds himself with it. It's like an echo chamber of assholes, and he's the king in the middle.
I just like people with, excellence and strong opinions, because even if I disagree with them, it challenges my viewpoints, and I think Forgiven is that kind of person. But in general, the kind of people that become pro players in video games don't necessarily respond well to brute force.
But he'd be
Doublelift is very similar, right? Doublelift is very similar.
He was a StarCraft player, right? Then there's always the issue that he has to have a group of people around him that also can be receptive.
Exactly. I think if Forgiven, I think you're absolutely right. Forgiven should have been an RTS player because that is exactly the attitude that RTS players have. But unfortunately, he was born too late. So.
There's people questioning Forgiven's prowess for the game, and they're like, oh, he hasn't played in 2 to 3 years. Why is he coming back? He's washed up. He hits Challenger. He's very high up on the ladder. And whenever he touches other games like CSGO, Heroes of the Storm, Overwatch, he kills it. He's very naturally gifted.
He is one of the most talented pro players I have ever seen. Like, he's like global elite in CSGO. He's up there at the top. He has been previously at the top of the Heroes and Overwatch ladders. Like, the fact that this guy can do this across multiple genres, literally leave for 2 years, be his age, and then just make a comeback, it's unreal. It's unreal.
Well, we were just talking about Medius, right? Guys that are 25 plus and still able to be a factor in League of Legends, so keep an eye out for him. Another LEC team making waves, Orihin, arrived upset from Schalke and Xerxes from Splice. They also, as we said before, picked up Destiny, good on you Mitchell, from the Oceanic region to fill their support role. With these moves, is Origin in a position to actually contend for a top LEC spot? Where does this put them in your eyes?
They picked up extremely good players. I think Xerxes was a huge reason why Splice was able to get through the early game. Like, it's amazing what he's able to do with basically 3 laners that don't do anything in the early game.
No. Like, the thing about Splice was they couldn't close, right? They would get leads, often from Xerxes, but they had trouble actually closing out games.
But now they have Xerxes plus Upset, and Upset was the living, breathing soul of Schalke. Without Upset, Schalke really just wasn't a team. So I think they got 2 of the best players from separate teams, and now they're putting them together. I think they're going to be scary. Alfari still a monster, Nuke Duck still a monster, and I don't know too much about this Destiny guy. Hopefully he's good. I mean, they could have gotten anyone, right? They have an import slot available, and they have really good scouts in what I would imagine for EU Masters also. So yeah, I'm having very high expectations from this new player that I honestly don't know anything about.
He's been, I think, since 2015, he's been playing at the top level in Oceania, so he's got a lot of experience.
I like the fact that EU teams are taking risks on these like English-speaking imports from Oceania, because oftentimes EU players or EU teams have no imports like G2. So if you have that space, you might as well take a flyer on somebody. Also, I really trust Officio to evaluate talent. I know things like didn't end up as well for Origin in year 1, but I don't think that anybody, if you looked at their roster at the start of last year, it certainly looked like it could have competed for #1 in Europe. And so I think there were potentially some internal issues or synergy issues that happened there. So I think, at least at the start, it was looking pretty good.
I mean, he was able to land Upset and Xerxes. That's an excellent job as a general manager.
So let's head over to you guys' favourite region briefly and touch on the LCK. T1 is expected to keep Faker, obviously, and Clid, Coma, and Khan's contracts have expired, and they didn't re-sign. So T1 did pretty well at Worlds, but came up short against the really aggressive top-tier teams. Some say that they didn't really sort of adapt to the Worlds meta, and that coaching was kind of a part of the problem. They just ended their contract, right, with their coach and their support, Mata. Should T1 keep the rest of the roster together, or, we talked about blowing up teams like we mentioned in the Overwatch segment? Should they explore other lineups? Where are you at on T1 now after that sort of disappointing semis exit?
So one information that wasn't mentioned is they re-signed Effort, their other support, who was their starting support.
Yeah, the good one.
Yeah.
The good one.
So they have at least that piece going, but if they are not able to retain Clid, and from the Facebook post that both Clid and Khan have made, it seems like they're not coming back. They're talking about themselves as free agent. They're talking about appreciating the time on SKT. SKT announced it in a way where they're still negotiating with Clid and Khan.
I mean, that could easily be a negotiating ploy from the players, right? They could be trying to get as much money out of SKT, which is now, of course, jointly owned by SK Telecom and Comcast.
That's a good idea. I should tweet like,
maybe
what game will I
2
cast
giant multi-billion-dollar companies might have a lot of money to give me if I play hard to get, right? If they're going to be coy about it, there's nothing wrong with that. So I think they need Clid.
Yes, for sure.
I don't know what they do without Clid. Like, they'd have to make some other sort of blockbuster signing if they're going to try and pull away Canyon or Tarzan. Like, these are options that they have. But I think Clid should be the #1 acquisition. I also think Khan actually having a good international performance means that they might want to think about him, but at the same time, they did come up short. So where do you, the question to me is, where do you go with SKT? Because just like the Liquid thing, do we in fact know the ceiling of this team? If they re-sign all their players, are they actually going to win Worlds with the same roster?
So what's funny is FPX, once they won, they were very open in their streams, and they talked about how SKT was crushing them in scrims, and they were shocked that G2 was able to beat SKT. So I think SKT, I mean, they also knew their scrim results, and they know how strong they were against the eventual Worlds winner. So they have everything within like their kind of ideology to keep the squad together. Like you talk about, if they can't keep Clid, they have to be very creative about how they're going to do 2020. I think Clid is the best jungler, and not only in terms of skill level, the mindset he brings. I am not going to play for Faker. Faker is going to play for me. I know how important jungle is, and I know how important it is for me to get ahead early. And that's the kind of mindset you're not going to find from a lot of junglers.
So let's zoom out just a little bit here. And in closing, do you think there are trends that you can see in differences of the way that these regions actually conduct their off seasons, like between NA, EU, Korea, China?
So I'll talk about things that are very special about Korea, because I think Korea and China does it actually a little bit better than NA and EU. They're very, very close-lipped, and they keep things close to themselves until the actual free agency begins. You see a lot of the NA and the European players talking about free agency before. I gotten permission from my team to talk to anyone. Please come talk to me. Korean teams and Chinese teams are very protective of their players, and they don't allow that. And another thing is, most players don't float multiple offers. They usually commit to a team very early, and then they're just talking with them themselves. And because Korea, especially in Korea, the country is so small, there's a lot of in-person meetings, and a lot of them, actually, you meet the players in person, you meet the staff in person before you fully sign on. So it's more of like a committed dating process, where in North America, similar to LA dating, you're considering your options and kind of weighing and seeing which one feels better.
Is that how you date in LA, is it? Oh.
Not that I would know.
I was going to say, maybe I kind of go. Okay. All right. So but before we go and we get to our debate, you got any other juice? Any rosters or other moves going on?
Nothing I can talk about publicly.
I mean, we know a lot of stuff, but it's difficult because we can speculate on some probably notable names that aren't being discussed.
Yeah. I mean, we were gonna talk about where is Medius gonna land up. Now we know the other two that are kind of huge that haven't really settled yet are Froggen, Afro. Oh, Monte also, friend of the show. Like, these are pretty big name players, and the fact that they might not start is pretty crazy.
So Froggen is another very known quantity. Like, you know exactly what you're going to get when you get Froggen. So I think many teams are going to be considering that. Afromu had a good performance year before last. This year has struggled, at least with 100 Thieves, but it seemed like they had a whole host of problems. Having worked with Afromu myself, I can say that when he's at his best and he's really like actively shot calling, he can be valuable, but sometimes I wonder about his motivation, and I think he gets demotivated easily. But I do think that if there's a good coaching staff that can keep him at his top performance level, I think he can be very valuable. For me, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. What is Monte's ceiling? Because now we've seen a year of him. Do you think that this is a player that is going to continue to grow?
He's really young, and when you talk ceiling about League of Legends player, it's really hard to talk about, because if they can change certain mindset things, right, or if they can change certain dedication things, or as they get mature and older as a person, like they'll change things about themselves. So he is on the very much younger side. If he can be put in with the proper coaching staff, I do think he can be a lot better. He has kind of the it factor in terms of being able to play aggressive, being able to gel with everyone, and also challenge import mid laners and not be like so cowardly, not be that typical NA mid, oh, I'm just gonna do my job, I'm just happy to be here. He is not that person.
I mean, he seemed like he had a very good attitude, and I hear very good things about his his overall presence within the team.
The thing about NA is you can have all those positive traits, but if you are not granted the opportunity to compete against top tier teams, like if you're on a bottom tier team, you actually don't get to scrim teams like TL, C9, and TSM.
Sure, yeah.
So you just play versus worse players, and solo queue isn't good, so it's incredibly hard to get better. So he has to be put in the right spot for his potential to come to fruition.
It might still be Tanner time for a little longer.
Well, I think what's interesting too is that because of how badly Clutch did at Worlds, but this was his chance to really scrim against some of the top teams in the world. How much has he learned during this offseason? I think it's a really interesting question.
Yeah, there's just isn't a lot of landing spots left for him. What's left? Immortals, 100 Thieves maybe, with the rumors of Ryoma maybe going to Academy because he's minor region imports, and Monte could go there. So yeah, then they could do someday Monte Bank. That's a possibility. So maybe 100 deep. So yeah, there are still few slots for Monte, but we'll see.
All right, well, it's almost time to make some declarations. We'll be back in just a minute with Click Debate, where you and chat will have a chance to win some Puma gear. Stick around. We'll see you in a minute right after this short tribute video to Sven Skeren.
Every fight they've had that they took earlier in the game. And Ben, do one more time over the wall. He's in. 1500, 12. Oh, baby! Baron steals the Baron. Cloud9 come up huge.
And now Cloud9 will once again look to find that opportunity. Stinky nearly taken down. Acadian going to be soaking up the damage. Ben's in some trouble. Sixgaren looking to put the last couple of auto attacks onto him. Shut down for Cloud9. Smoothie's in some trouble too. And the C9 boys found two. Is this a replay? No, it's a new one. Or it might be the same. I don't know. It's hard to tell. This should not be a miss. And the Barons picked up. Now for the 4v3 team fight. Kramer gets slow. They're all slowed. Look at the explosions. The kills just keep coming through. And Keen stands no chance. A delayed ace for Cloud9.
Oh my word! They said turret. What turret? My goggles. They see nothing. And they may not see a liquor anymore. He gets away. Spenskaren at the last second. What a play by Spenskaren. They're giving C9 a bit of respect here. They know they can still come back with one inhibitor down. Oh my God, Impact gets popped back. Spenskaren drinks him under the table, and that's Licorice's kill. What a snap play here by C9 for the shock and awe against TL.
They want to. That's the problem, right? Golden Blue still so strong. Stuns Pobelta. Q's gonna land. There's the ult out, and that should be a kill. Spenskaren on a rampage.
From the beginning, 13-5, 36 minutes in. Cloud9 puts the finishing touches on the Nexus turrets, and the Nexus will follow. Cloud9 takes down Genji.
Imagine that this ping pong table is League of Legends, and Niski is, well, he's still Niski. Every time a new patch is released, the game changes. That's why Cloud9 have partnered with Microsoft. Using their technology, they can understand changes faster, so that no matter what the next patch brings, they're ready to own it. Ping pong ball did not actually penetrate table, physically impossible, but we left it in because it looked awesome.
This is Click Debate, sponsored by Puma, and it is your chance to make your voices heard, sort of. Well, it's up to him, really, and possibly win some Puma gear. Today's debate topic is who in the LCS has made the best move in the off-season so far. My co-hosts will each make their case, and then all you have to do for the chance to win a Puma gift card is vote in the chat who had the better take, Monte or Loco, with the hashtag Puma. You must be 18 years old or older and reside in North America in order to win. Goss is killing me. And make sure to check your whispers to see if you won. Why do I even use a prompter? I just try and memorize it. All right, guys, who's made the best move in the LCS offseason so far?
I mean, Dignitas signing Huni for 2.3 million.
Guys.
So I'm actually going to say EG for picking up Svenskaren. And the reason why is because they're a new team coming into the league. As we were discussing earlier, there are very few pieces that teams have to play with that are going to be legitimate, like, North American resident players. So if you have a roster like EG did, of 0 people, right, necessarily coming in, then what you need to do is that is the first thing you go after.
So once these sort of foreign players become residents, you try and jump on them.
Well, I mean, if they're good, sure. Or just NA players that are also good, right? So I think with Svenskeren coming off his MVP season, so you're accomplishing several things here. I think if you're EG, you're getting fans, because obviously he's the MVP. People are going to be hyped about that, which is what Dignitas tried to accomplish with Huni, except Svenskeren is actually really good. So I think getting him is much more impressive. And then at that point, you get Zeyzal as well. What's been important in League of Legends? Synergy between Beards. Yes, Beards. Also, jungle support synergy, so you have two players that are used to playing with each other. And then all you need at that point is just one more NA player, and you can just fill in with two imports. So I actually think EG's strategy, now, probably paid a lot for that, but I think that coming up with some of these ideas coming in is going to be, I think Svenskeren is definitely the hottest free agent in the offseason, and I think that going through is going to be great for EG.
The thing about EG is they paid a premium to be the brand that's always winning. You can see it in their Dota 2 team, you can see it in their CSGO team. Yeah. Wherever they enter, they're not here to like play around, they want to be a contender, and if that's the brand image you want to have, then you constantly have to pay for that image. And that's what they're doing in League of Legends, like you talked about.
Just trying to wear all the coolest clothes and go to the sickest restaurant.
So you agree? So would you agree that Svenskeren was the best?
You have to have an opinion.
I love that pickup, but I will throw one in the back. And this isn't because we're on a C9 show. I do love the pickup of Vulcan. I think Vulcan is going to be an MVP level player in the future. And also, even though the buyout numbers is rumored to be crazy.
All the buyouts are crazy, to be fair.
His salary is going to be on the lower end, because he used to be a scouting grounds player just 2 years ago. So yeah, that's the pickup I love. And I also will add on, Zven, Zach likes to call TSM the talent suppression machine. Once he's out of there, I also do think we're going to see more of the European Zven that we saw on G2.
What is that? What is that European Zven? What do you mean?
The European Zven is very consistent.
Very aggressive.
I wouldn't say very aggressive. Like him along with Mitty, one thing they were so good at is no matter how much resource was given to them, they would always be relevant, right? Even if they play away from Mitty and Zven and play towards solo laners, they were very, very relevant. And I think this iteration of Cloud9, with what I'd imagine Licorice staying in top lane, are going to play around that top side more, and Zven and Vulcan is going to fit right into what they want out of that.
So like you mean like a low prio bot lane?
Yeah, low econ bot lane.
Low econ, right. So, all right, so who wins the LCS spring season?
Ooh.
That is like impossible to say until we know more about the rosters.
Say it. The prompter told me to say it, so I just read it.
Like, are we going with like? How much information do I want to reveal right now? I think is the question.
How much does winning this debate mean to you?
Well, the problem is the audience won't know the information that we have necessarily, so we're just going to like say a name and people are going to be like, what?
Okay. Let's talk about TL. Do you think they upgraded or downgraded?
I still think they're going to be the best team. I actually don't think it's going to matter that much. Yes, they may have introduced some. They've given some and taken some away with Broxa, but at a fundamental level, they're still going to be incredibly strong.
So the other big names that we're probably going to throw in there is TSM and EG. We still don't know what rest of EG's roster looks like. The solo lanes are going to be really important, and we also don't know what TSM's top and jungle situation looks like. But if they can get the right top and jungle, and if EG can get the right solo laners, I definitely think there's going to be more of a challenge. And the home team Cloud9, they're very happy with their roster going forward. So, and they went to Game 5 with TL, and I think TL is going to be a little bit worse, and I think Cloud9 will be a little bit better. So it's going to be a very competitive season. And I agree with you. Like you said, until everyone knows everything, it's really hard to call a clear favorite.
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay, so outside of this then, any other sort of honorable mention free agent moves outside of the LCS? Or even inside the LCS we haven't talked about?
How do you feel about Golden Glue to Golden Guardians?
It's a flavor win. I'll say that much.
I love Grayson. I think he's got an amazing attitude. I think I hope he does well. I think that he's had a lot of opportunities already and hasn't ever played at necessarily the super highest level of League of Legends, which You know, is it going to happen now? Like, is it going to happen this time? Is it going to be better than Froggen?
So Grayson Golden Blue Gilmer on the Golden Guardian. That's the real
6
fight.
Gs.
That's 5G. That's where AT&T is going to be. That's I'm telling. That's the tie-in there. That's a really interesting decision.
Another huge landing that we still don't know about is Crown. The rumor is Crown is no longer going to be on Immortals. I think EG is going to be desperate for Crown. I think CLG will also be really desperate for Crown. And where he lands is going to determine the future for both those teams.
All right, who's high rolling? What are the riskiest moves that we've seen so far in the offseason?
I mean, the Huni one, obviously, because he wants to switch to mid lane on top of everything we talked about. So you're paying $2.3 million for a player to play a brand new lane. I think that is going to be so risky.
Does that almost justify him being the kind of player that he is if he's doing it in the mid lane and not the top lane? Or at least a little more?
I guess, but where's the proof that he's going to be a good player in mid lane? If you're paying $2.3 mil for a player, he has to be the best player in the league.
I still have trauma from Piglet mid lane. So.
Oh, man.
Cut to a few months later, Hooney's going to have this picture of rain over just on his bed, like wondering where it all went wrong. That's it, though, for our off-season report edition of the Nines, presented by AT&T. We'll be back next week at 9 p.m. Eastern Time with an all-new episode. Make sure to follow Cloud9's Twitch channel here and subscribe to them on YouTube. I'm Uber, that's Monte Crusoe, that's Loco. Thanks for watching our extended discussion episode, and good night.